Generally, having a role in a movie is something that gets you the good things in life. Recognition and adoration from strangers, a nice chunk of cash, and if you're lucky, even some awards. But this doesn't always mean a film role is definitely a good thing. Sometimes a person's role in a specific piece of work only sabotages their future endeavors, as unfortunate as that is. This is most common for those to whom acting isn't a full-time job, where an uncomfortable tension between their day job and their acting side hustle can, in extreme cases, cause them to lose their primary source of income. So with all that in mind, I'm Gareth, you are watching What Culture, and here are 6 movie roles that got people fired. Number 6, a teacher lost her job for an erotic drama 40 years earlier. The Secret Diary of a Nymphomaniac. We begin with what might be the most blatantly ridiculous and unfair of all the firings on this list. Starting strong, or stupid, take your pick. Back in 2014, 73-year-old drama teacher Jacqueline Laurent Auger was fired from her post at an elite Montreal school after students discovered she'd starred in a number of erotic dramas in the 1970s. Most notably, Laurent Auger appeared nude in 1973's sexy thriller Sinner: The Secret Diary of a Nymphomaniac. And once word spread about her prior career, her bosses made the decision to fire her. Laurent Auger was incensed, naturally, that an acting role she'd accepted 4 decades earlier, which again was an actual dramatic film, not porn, was impacting her current work prospects. Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. She said, "I did it as a young actress to make a little money. The idea of throwing someone out the door for something they did almost 50 years ago is idiotic. It makes me angry." You know what, it makes me angry too, Jacqueline. Despite public outrage, the college held firm that the revelation made her position at the institution untenable, because apparently the knowledge of her films affected the atmosphere of her classrooms. Yeah, an awful decision by said college, I'm sure you'll agree. What a dumb world. Number 5, Hulk Hogan was fired from the WWF because wrestlers aren't supposed to be movie stars. Rocky 3. While certainly in a far more fortunate position than anyone else on this list to weather the cost of lost employment, Hulk Hogan nevertheless found himself handed a pink slip while working for the World Wrestling Federation in the early 1980s. Hogan was offered the role of Thunderlips in The Flesh Baby in Rocky 3, a wrestling champion who fights Rocky in an exhibition match early in the film. What a film that was. When Hulk informed his WWF boss Vince McMahon Sr. that he'd been offered the part, McMahon responded by telling him he was fired if he accepted it, staunchly feeling that wrestlers should stay wrestlers and not branch off into other media forms. How dare they? Hogan ended up taking the part regardless, and was consequently pawned off to another wrestling territory, the AWA. Only when Vince McMahon Jr. purchased the WWF a few years later was Hogan rehired, as the younger Vince didn't share his father's rigid mindset about the singular role of wrestlers. In an interview with another wrestling icon by the name of Stone Cold Steve Austin, you may have heard of him, Hogan said of his firing, "The mindset back then wasn't like it is now. Back then, if you were a wrestler, you didn't do TV, you didn't go do a movie. If you were a wrestler, you were a wrestler. Vince Sr. fired me for doing the movie because you weren't supposed to do movies or TV shows back then. Oh, how things change, eh? Now you seemingly can't get through a film without seeing a wrestler pop up on screen. Or not, in John Cena's case. You still can't see him. Speaking of wrestlers in films and TV shows, who is your favorite wrestler turned actor of all time? Is it Cena? Is it The Rock? Batista? Even Hulk Hogan? You let me know in the comments right down below. It's probably not Hulk Hogan, is it? And when you're done with this great list right here, be sure to hop on over to What Culture Wrestling if you're a fan of all things WWE, AEW, and other wrestling stuff. Number 4, an imam was fired from a mosque for filming a marriage scene. Haida. 2014's Indian crime drama film, Haida, is a contemporary adaptation of Shakespeare's Hamlet. And while a massive critical and commercial success, proved controversial for its depiction of human rights abuses at the hands of Indian armed forces. Furthermore, an imam who appeared in the film, Ghulam Hassan Shah, was consequently fired from his job as the prayer leader at a Nauhata mosque, a position he had held for 8 years. Shah's small role in the film saw him performing a Muslim marriage ceremony. Presumably, Shah's bosses didn't much care for him showing his face in such a politically incendiary piece of work, and according to Shah, the firing severely affected his standing in the local community, leaving few willing to still take prayers with him. Shah claimed that he was told the footage was being shot for an educational film, and went on to take legal action against director Vishal Bhardwaj, demanding both an apology and compensation to recoup lost earnings. But there's no word online about the eventual legal outcome, sadly. If you're finding this list you're watching right here to be quite a fascinating one, then wait till you hear this. If you hit that subscribe button right down below, you'll get even more of these wonderful What Culture lists, news videos, and so much more. Hell of a deal. Number 3, radio host Suk Yin Lee was fired for unsimulated sex scenes until Hollywood stepped in. Short bus. Suk Yin Lee was a presenter on Canadian radio station CBC in 2003 when she was offered the lead role in John Cameron Mitchell's erotic dramedy Short Bus. Lee accepted the part, but when the film's sexually explicit nature was made public, requiring Lee to perform unsimulated sex acts on screen, her employers at CBC gave her marching orders. Lee's boss, Jane Chalmers, hastily informed her she was fired if she agreed to move forward with the part. This resulted in several of Lee and Mitchell's high-profile acquaintances, such as Yoko Ono, Gus Van Sant, Francis Ford Coppola, Julianne Moore, and David Cronenberg, writing to CBC to protest her dismissal. That's a hell of a collection of names to have in your corner, I will say. As a result of the public pressure, a few weeks later, Chalmers backed down and agreed to reinstate Lee, while Lee went on to appear in the film without any further threats to her job. Despite all this fuss, Lee continued to work periodically with CBC for roughly 15 years after the incident. A happy ending then, after a weird little time there. Number 2, newscaster Elena Pinto was fired for violating her contract. Hubie Halloween. Elena Pinto is the most recent addition to the ranks of those fired for taking roles in movies, losing her job as a newscaster at Boston's WHDH7 News for making a cameo appearance in the Adam Sandler Netflix comedy Hubie Halloween. In the film, Pinto plays a reporter who, to celebrate Halloween, is dressed up as Harley Quinn, Daddy's little monster, or nightmare in this case. Unfortunately, within days of the film's release, Pinto reported that she'd been fired from her job for unknowingly violating a contractual agreement which prevented her from taking outside jobs without the station's permission. Pinto's Twitter post about the situation was extremely graceful considering the frankly ridiculous nature of her dismissal and the absolutely harmless nature of her Quinn cameo role in the movie. And though a passionate social media campaign was mounted to get her job back, it sadly came to nothing, which sucks really. Poor Pinto. Number 1, a school basketball coach was fired for appearing in a suggestive short film, Forbidden Fruit. In 2013, Connecticut school basketball coach Mike Hvizdov, that's the pronunciation I'm going with, was encouraged to resign from his post after a short film he appeared in a decade prior, Forbidden Fruit, resurfaced online. The short, produced by Jack Black's former assistant, Stephen Morimarco, depicted Hvizdov in a number of suggestive situations, and as a result, the school decided to cut ties with him. The short was anonymously emailed to the school's principal, Lisa R. Wolak, who convened a committee to decide Hvizdov's fate. It was an undeniably raw deal for Hvizdov, for a short film which didn't actually feature any nudity or really do anything wrong, and one which was made an entire 10 years earlier.